Rotimi Fakayejo, stockbroker and capital market analyst, joins us for his take on the markets this week. Rotimi, thank you for joining us. Always a pleasure to have you on the show. Let's take a look at the all-share index. It's still struggling to go back to that 35,000 point mark that we saw about 2 weeks ago. What is your take on that?
Well, I think the 34,000 basis points have become a resistance level for the market, a new resistance level. And we are seeing that for the week close, we are having a positive change in the all-share index of 2.19%. And I believe strongly that despite of the MPC meeting outcome, where there are no major changes, and also the NBS report, which was negative, the market could still sustain a 2.19% weekly change, positive weekly change. And I think to me that is good enough, and I think it's a new beginning for a new high for the market. So what had happened earlier on, I think, was just a jittery situation whereby nobody was actually, the investors were apprehensive of what was to come with the NBS report and also the MPC meeting. But that's all over now. I think we're in a new trend.
Well, talk to us about this week's best performance, those stocks that outperformed.
Into that again.
Could you talk to us about this week's best performers?
Well, I think we've seen a lot of recovery from what can earlier be said to be a downward trend for the market. So we may not really be able to pin it on it. If we're going to look at it from the beginning of the bullish trend, I think that will be difficult to say. But I think for this week, I think Dangote Cement has really been part of the positive factors for the market, and likewise NTN. So the banking sector stocks, they will not. I think they are the rates that actually drag down the market, that the market couldn't return to the 35,000 basis points. But I think Dangote Cement, NTN are actually the major drivers for this week.
Now, for the bank earnings that we saw, especially from the tier ones, how do you think investors are still processing those numbers? And would you say that they're still bullish on the fundamentals and the earnings outlook for these banks, even in the context of a weak macro?
Well, it depends on how investors are actually looking at those figures, because the figures, the interpretation of the figures goes further than just the top line and the bottom line. And when you look within those lines, then definitely you see that there's still a lot of hope, and the fundamentals are still very sound for the banking sector stocks. I think whether through the lockdown and the effect that we're already seeing, a lot of loans were booked to be backed, and I think the extent to which we saw, I think, is still very much manageable, and the market can actually cope with that. So without still in place, the fundamentals still seem to the right, because we didn't see a major loss profit drop in most of the banks. So I believe they will do better in this last quarter, and the figures will still be able to at least match up with what we saw last season.
Okay, talk to us about your outlook for the coming trading week. What stocks are going to be on your radar? What stocks should we be looking out for?
Well, the investors haven't digested enough information concerning the results and because we won't have any MPC meeting coming forward again. So the banking sector stocks are going to have a revived interest in the market. And that renewed interest is definitely going to affect the prices positively. So I still believe strongly that with the kind of dividend outlook for the banking sector stocks at the end of their financial year, I think the banking sector stocks are definitely going to be my best picks coming in the coming weeks.